This is Beyond the Veil with Norman Meredith.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to another episode of Beyond the Veil. We are at episode 37 tonight, and we're coming from Easley, South Carolina, because the AC at our other location is a little bit on the fritz tonight, so we're in a nicer, cooler place to be. And when I mean cooler, it's a nice location. Who knows? We might even stay here. Who knows? We'll see what we got. Tonight's episode, we're going to talk about the Black Knight satellite. Now, some of you out there in the world that are open-minded have heard about the Black Knight satellite. It is a satellite that's been orbiting the Earth, some say for about 13,000 years. And it's a non-terrestrial satellite. In other words, it's been made by an intelligent creatures race. Here's a picture of it. If you look at it, turn your head sideways to the left, kind of looks like a ship a little bit. You got the prow of it. You can see the bow, what looks like a partition on the top, the tail with the rudder on the back, or the tail fin. Looks like a craft of some sort. Now, according to some of the information I found, the Black Knight satellite conspiracy theory, now it's called a conspiracy theory because NASA says it's space junk. And other people say, no, it's been there for a while, and we're going to talk about that, and especially a famous inventor who may have a link to the Black Knight satellite. All right. The Black Knight satellite conspiracy theory claims that a spacecraft of extraterrestrial origin is in near polar orbit of the Earth, and that NASA is covering up the existence and origin. The conspiracy theory combines several unrelated stories into one narrative. A photo taken during STS-88, STS is the shuttle missions, for those that may not realize it, claimed that by some to show the Black Knight satellite is cataloged by NASA as a photo of space debris. Yeah, space debris. And the space journalist James Oberg considered as probable debris of a thermal blanket confirmed as lost during the mission. Folks, you've seen the picture here. Ed, throw up one of those pictures again on the Black Knight satellite. Does that look like a thermal blanket? Nah, I don't think so. It's just, it don't strike me as being a blanket. It don't look crumbly enough. I mean, maybe this one could be a blanket, but the other one that we looked at definitely looks like a craft of some sort. All right, let's talk a little history about this Black Knight satellite. Excuse me. According to some UFO conspiracists, the Black Knight is an artificial satellite of extraterrestrial origin that has orbited the Earth for approximately 1,300 years. The satellite story is most likely a conflation of several disconnected stories about various objects and their interpretations of all of them, and well documented independently, and none used the term Black Knight upon their first publication. According to Senior Education Support Officer Martina Redpath of Armagoth Planetarium in Northern Ireland, Black Knight is a jumble of completely unrelated stories, reports of unusual science observations, authors promoting fringe ideas, classified spy satellites, and others over-interpretation photos. These ingredients have been chopped up, stirred together, and stewed on the internet into one rambling and inconsistent dollop of myth. A lot of words. The origin of the Black Knight's legend is often retrospectively dated back to a natural extraterrestrial repeating source supposedly heard during the 1899 radio experiments of, guess who am I say? And if you guessed right, yes it is, Nikola Tesla. and the long-delayed echoes first heard by the amateur radio operator Jorgen Hals in Oslo, Norway in 1928. Brian Duggan of the Skeptoid podcast attributes Tesla's 1899 radio signals to pulsars, which were not identified until 1968. Now, Tesla, remember, Nikola Tesla talked about getting information from other beings, other off-world characters, beings, superior beings and such. It would stand to reason you would need a satellite of some sort to act as a path, a repeater station. Any of you amateur radio people in the service know sometimes you need a repeater to carry a radio signal further away, because you only got so far a radio signal can travel. And so with the signals that Tesla was communicating via, which is extra ESP or telepathy, it would stand to reason if it was like a radio signal, you would need a repeating station. So it's very possible this Black Knight satellite is a repeating station of extraterrestrial origin. Now, we're going to go back and talk a little bit more, and then I'm going to throw another theory out to you, okay? In 1954, a UFO researcher, Donald Keyhole, told newspapers that the United States Air Force had reported that 2 satellites orbiting Earth had been detected. And at that time, no country had technology to launch a satellite. Skeptics have noted that Keyhole had been promoting a UFO book at the time, and the news stories were likely written tongue-in-cheek, not intended to be taken serious. Now, Keyhole, for those who do not know, was a U.S. Marine. He was a major, and he was a pilot. And I think he did work a little bit in the intelligence field. And yes, UFOs became his passion because some events that occurred in his life. I don't know a whole lot about Donald Keyhole, but I do know that UFOs was one of his greatest passions, and that he was a pretty well-known figure back in the 50s and 60s about UFOs, and he did a lot of investigations. And for him to just say something like this is not tongue-in-cheek. If he said there was 2 satellites in orbit, there's a very good possibility, because we're coming into the atomic age. We're learning more about using nuclear weapons, testing different things that were hush-hush, black ops, whatever you want to call it, black programs. We were creating atomic weapons. We created atomic cannons, believe it or not, that were able to fire atomic projectiles. There was an Air Force fighter at one time that could fire a form of depleted uranium before its time even. And there was even attempts to make atomic engines for aircraft and bombers. So it's very possible that an extraterrestrial race or races, or if there was a galactic committee out there or a union, would put a satellite or 2 up in our orbit to watch and see what we're doing, monitor our airwaves, monitor the TVs that was just coming into, do a full radar scan of our Earth and any other type of recording information scans that they can do using from outer space, and maybe even launch probes and drones to collect samples and such. So that possibility of having satellites in space before we had them normally is very feasible. We do it now. Think about Mars. We've got satellites in space around there that monitor the planet and take samples and measurements and do scans, and we've launched probes from the orbit into land on the moon, onto Mars, to take samples and explore. So why not an alien race do the same to us? Think about that. All right, a little bit more. A British rocket called Black Knight was also used in conjunction with the Blue Streak missile program between 1958 and 65 to test re-entry vehicles. Black Knight satellite launcher, project announced in 64, was considered a priority by the Ministry of Aviation. The program never put anything into orbit and is unrelated to the Black Knight satellite legend. Okay. So if somebody was trying to say this was related to the British, it isn't. All right, now in February of 60, Time reported that the U.S. Navy had detected a dark object thought to be a Soviet spy satellite in orbit. A follow-up article confirmed that the object was the remains of an Air Force Discovery 8 satellite that had gone away. Hey Ed, start cycling through some of those photos for us, please. Okay, that's someone we talk about, I think, might be a space blanket. Could be. Now these, there is no way in heck that's a space blanket. That's a satellite or a ship. Okay? If you look at it, it's got some forward protrusions. It's got object on the top. It's a rectangular object. It's got protrusions to the back, which could be an engine and some other objects. I mean, it's sort of a rectangle in shape. This is one picture that has been taken of many that is considered to be a Black Knight satellite. I mean, come on, folks. Does that look like a blanket? No, not if that, unless that blanket had two spark plugs stuck to it. I don't see that being a thermal blanket lost in space. And then, like I say, this one here, that does look like a starship of some sort that's just parked into an orbit. It could be it's just stuck in orbit. Maybe this was a ship coming into Earth, and it had a catastrophic incident. They lost pressure, so it's stuck in this geosync orbit. It just floats around the Earth, or it was leaving and had a depressurization accident. Or like we say, it's just a satellite that's parked in a synchronous orbit, and it watches the Earth. But that does not look like a blanket to me. What do you think, Ed? Does that look like a blanket? Ed agrees with me. That's not a thermal blanket. I mean, there's a couple different pictures. This is the most popular picture of the Black Knight satellite that's found on the internet at this time. All right, we're going to go to 1963. Astronaut Gordon Cooper supposedly reported a UFO during the 15th orbit in Mercury 9 that was confirmed by tracking stations, but there is no evidence that this... Excuse me. Let me take a drink, folks. I don't need to keep burping and hiccuping. All right, I'm back. I'm sorry. My hiccups were getting carried away there. All right. Well, I was saying it was a UFO sighting during the 15th orbit in Mercury 9 that was confirmed by tracking stations, but there is no evidence that this happened. Neither NASA's mission transcripts nor Cooper's personal copies show any such report being made during the orbit. Now, Cooper has reportedly seen UFOs in orbit multiple times during his trips. Did he see the Black Knight satellite? It's very possible. He could have. Now we're going to move up to 73. In 1973, Scottish author Duncan Lunan analyzed the long-delayed radio echoes received by Howells and others and speculated that they could possibly originate from a 13,000-year-old alien probe located in an orbit around Earth's moon. He suggested the probe may have originated from a planet located in the solar system of the star Epsilon Bootis. Now that's Bootis. Lunan later retracted this conclusion, saying that he had made outright error and that his methods had been unscientific. All right, I'll tell you what I think. He was right, and people came down on him because he was right, and it was like, people are not ready to know this information, so you're going to retract all your stuff, or we're going to make life very miserable for you. Because if they killed him, then his work was been considered legit. But by making him retract, it made him look like a fool, and anything he tried to publish later on would be just laughed at. I think the man was on the right track and was very sound of mind for what he was proving. It's just that no such agency or organization came into his path and says, yeah, not happening. So let's remove all this information that you're starting to spew. All right, space debris photographed in 1998 during the STS-88 mission has been widely claimed to be the Black Knight satellite. I still say it's just hogwash. It's just cover. I mean, there is no way that I believe that this is a space blanket. I don't believe that this is the thermal blanket. I mean, this particular photo could be. Now, this is a artist's illustration of the Black Knight satellite. Now, I like this. This looks cool. To me, that does look like a ship. It looks like it could be a piloted ship. Maybe the top part there, that little round circle that looks like a puck, could be a defensive piece. Armament. Maybe it's a ship weapon. Space is cruel. You never know what's out there. But if you look at them side by side, I'd almost say what's the possibilities could be there. I don't know. I haven't been there. I haven't been to space. I mean, there's a lot of classified shuttle missions. So it's possible that we could have went up there and actually docked with this thing or made contact with this thing and know a lot more than we used to know. But it's going to be buried under hush, hush, hush. The U.S. Air Force has their own little robotic shuttle that they use, and it was on a mission for almost a little over a year, if I recall. And it's very possible it could have been in tandem with the Black Knight satellite, doing research on it. Running all sorts of scientific scans and other stuff if we never did dock with the shuttle. But I actually believe we may have done some shuttle missions to the Black Knight satellite, but they're under the guise of military. And you ain't gonna know what's going on under military, especially if they put it under the cloud of black ops. But what's your opinion? Do you think this was an actual satellite? Could this been the remains of a precursor race's vessel that never left orbit because something happened to the crew because of depressurization, an accident, and they got caught in the gravity well? And it just hit the sweet spot and just got stuck there. When aliens were fleeing the Earth, the original inhabitants of Earth were fleeing and just got stuck and stayed there. Or could it have been a visitor that had an accident and their bodies are entombed in there and they're just floating around Earth? Or is it actually a monitoring station for aliens or galactic council watching over us? I don't know, but what is your opinion? Tell me what you think tonight when you see this and look at the pictures. Tell me your thoughts. Leave me some comments. Let me know what you think, what the Black Knight satellite is. Is it human? Is it alien? Is it something else? What do you think its use is it for? Is it a relay station to transmit ESP like Tesla was using it for? Is it still a communication station for maybe aliens here on Earth? Transmitting communication waves or their equivalent of radio waves, so they can keep in touch with their home planet. I don't know, folks, but I'm going to leave that with you tonight. I'm going to leave these thoughts about the Black Knight satellite and let you think on it. And until next week, I'm going to sign off from Easley, South Carolina, and I'm going to try to find us a really cool topic for next week. Maybe we'll talk about a person. I've got an idea, and I'm going to do a little research on this, and I think I've got an idea of a wonderful idea of a person to talk about. And I'm going to see if I can find someone to join us to talk. Jackie's on taking care of some other stuff at the moment for her program and stuff related to things that she does. So it might be a little bit before she comes back. So everybody keep her in your prayers and, ask her to come back as soon as she can. That's all we can ask. So until then, folks, Be safe, be sound. Watch where you go. Take notes. You need help, reach out. We'll tell you who it is. Yeah, I know it's not my typical ending, but I'm under the weather a little bit tonight. So I'm not feeling 100%. You're only getting about 50% out of me tonight. So, all right. Y'all be good, be safe, and keep it between the lines. Good night, all, from Easley, South Carolina. From Ed and I.